everybody, and welcome back to the Growth and Gratitude podcast. Today's episode is about how to be your healthy weight for life. But first, we always start with gratitude, and I am going to express my gratitude, number one, for my coach, Dr. Deb Butler, who I cannot recommend more highly, who very much helped me with the topic that I'm talking about today. I also want to express my gratitude for Brooke Castillo, the founder of the Life Coach School, because it was her weight loss and weight coaching program that originally helped me to figure some of what I'm going to share out and taught me so much about living at a healthy weight. And I also want to thank my brain. I know that's a little unusual, but I learned through the process of getting to a healthy weight, which took me a very long time and a lot of struggle, that I could rewire my brain. And I learned about neuroplasticity in a way that I never really knew existed before, even though I knew of the concept. In doing this work with my weight, I learned a lot more about the miracle that is my brain, that is your brain, and what we can actually do with it. This episode will come out in February of 2024. So I know it's a time when a lot of people are thinking about being healthier and setting goals for themselves for the year, goals and intentions. And so I wanted to support that on this topic because I know it's an important one for a lot of people. Health. What could be more important than our health? I've been hearing a lot in the media about medications for weight loss and fad diets, some of which seem not so healthy or really restrictive and difficult. And so, if something you're doing is working great for you and is healthy, then I support that, of course. But if you're looking for a way to be at a healthy weight that is natural, that's using food that we eat every day that's not specially packaged food or something really expensive, and looking for ways to work with your own mind and habit change, which is incredibly difficult. I know. I am not going to deny how difficult all of this is. I want to be real about that. And I've struggled with it myself. But this is a way to do it naturally if you do want to try that. The goal here is to be at whatever the healthiest weight for you is, which might not be the same for someone else or might not be the same as what it may have been at a different time in your life. So it's really going to be a very customized talk that I want you to take what you think could work for you and leave the rest and really decide what makes sense for you. I'm going to give three general tips. They're not rocket science at all to understand, but they can be really challenging to actually implement in your life. And believe me, I completely understand that. And so I'm going to try to give as many suggestions as I can to make it easier and to empathize with how difficult it can be. I am trained as a weight loss coach through the Life Coach School. We really got extensive training in the brain rewiring, the mental and emotional components of getting to a healthy weight, that tactical tools and tips and practices for how to food journal and how to track your behaviors and how to talk through what came up and process, and with so much self-compassion and no judgment. And that's the approach that I take, just so that you know. I also personally have struggled with my weight my entire life up until about 5 years ago when I did intensive one-on-one coaching with Dr. Deb Butler. So again, I want to express my gratitude for her. What she took me through really helped me to understand how to do this work in a new way and how to get to a place where it didn't have to be a major struggle in my life anymore. I still find myself tempted and having difficult moments and working with it all of the time. I want to be really honest about that. And at the same time, I feel what I learned about 5 years ago, which was when I was about 50, helped me to get to a new place with all of it. Dr. Deb Butler's podcast is called Thinner Peace in Menopause and Beyond. If that's you, that may not be you. And if it's not, what I talk about is going to be relevant for everyone. But if you are in that category, because we do know that it can be more challenging in menopause to lose weight and to stay at a healthy weight, which is, I'm postmenopausal. Her program was especially helpful for me because of that, because of the new challenges that came with that stage of life. So I've had this personal experience. My weight has been up and down. I don't want to talk about numbers because it's really more about the emotional piece. It's about being free from that stress and that worry. Should I eat this? Should I not eat this? Am I going to fit into these clothes at this event I want to go to? It's the emotional and mental strain and stress of this constant rumination. I'm speaking for myself of what I used to go through and a lot of the folks I talk to who struggle with this as well. I do offer healthy weight coaching, and I've worked with several people now who have successfully gotten to their healthy weight. And that work has been some of the most rewarding work that I've gotten to do. So if that's something that you're interested in, let me know. I do have a 1 hour recorded webinar on my YouTube page called Curb Your Cravings that is going to go a lot deeper into some of the things that I'll touch on briefly today. This is just a foundational introduction to my approach to how to get to and live your life at a healthy weight and be free of all the emotional difficulties that come with having to worry about this all the time. So today I'm going to give you my top 3 tips at a very high level. And if you want more, please let me know because there is so much more on this. I know that it's not simple and I know it's difficult. But before I go into the 3 tips, I do want to address exceptions. One, my tips, this approach to a healthy weight is not meant to address eating disorders. If you have been diagnosed with or suspect you have an eating disorder, please seek support from a professional, a therapist, Overeaters Anonymous. There are so many groups and programs to support you, and this is not meant to address those challenges. The second exception is if you have been diagnosed with some sort of health challenge that causes you for some reason to have additional difficulty in losing weight or to need a certain kind of support, a custom kind of support from a doctor to be at a healthy weight because of a health challenge that you have, this is not meant for you. However, if you do have an eating disorder or a health challenge that makes it more difficult to be at a healthy weight, you're of course welcome to listen and see if anything feels helpful. But in those cases, I highly recommend additional support and know that this is not really meant to address those unique cases. Most people will fall into the category of folks I'm talking to here, which is simply non judgmentally, purely factually described as having excess weight on your body that you don't need, that is above the weight that your body is really meant to be at in order to be healthy. And that could be quite a range, and that has to be determined by you. So I'm not going to give you any numbers. You have to decide. And I do encourage you to think what is probably that range for you, or what is a clothing size, or is there a time in your life where you think you were there, where you were healthy, you were eating healthy, you were living healthy, and that's about what it is for you. And that's going to be really unique for you. No one else can tell you that. Now on to my 3 tips. I'll preview them and then I'll give a few suggestions under each and talk about what makes them hard and how to address those challenges. 1, eating the right amount for your healthy weight, eating the right amount of food for your healthy weight. 2 is eating the right foods for you for your healthy weight. And 3 is doing the right exercise for you for your healthy weight. So you can probably already tell that each of these is going to be something that you will have to customize for yourself. And I'll give you some really great suggestions on how to do that. In weight loss coaching, what we do is we have people food journal. It is important to keep track of what you're eating because how can you know what the right amount of food is for your body until you actually track it and write it down every day? So when I worked with my coach, Dr. Deb, I food journaled for months and months and months. And wow, how eye-opening to write down everything I ate every single day and be able to see the weight on the scale fluctuate up and down. And that is just a scientific measure. We want to try to detach from, I know it's easy to say and very hard to do, but from emotional responses to that number on the scale. It's really just a scientific measurement of how the amount that we're eating is resulting in the number on the scale. So number 1 tool is food journaling, writing down everything you eat if you really want to know what amount of food is right for your body. And another tool, another important thing to do is always plan your food ahead of time. This is what I did in my program to lose weight, and this is what I do with folks who I coach on getting to a healthy weight. Okay, so food journaling and planning the food ahead of time, ideally the whole week, because we might need to think ahead to that party on Saturday night or that date night on Friday where we whatever want to indulge in whatever it might be. It's just planning, and you are smart. You know about how much food your body needs, really, if you really think about it, and you probably know what that looks like, about how much you should eat for breakfast, for lunch, for dinner, snacks in between. So really planning that ahead of time, planning your meals, planning your snacks if you want to do snacks, planning in your intermittent fasting. I'm just throwing out terms you may or may not know and may want to look into. I'm a fan of intermittent fasting, but you don't have to do that. So really planning your food and having a hypothesis about how much food would be right for you to be at your healthy weight, and then starting to eat that amount of food. Now, planning it and journaling it and thinking about how much food it would be is not that hard, but actually sticking to that plan, I know, is incredibly, incredibly hard. And this is what I have learned is the reality of why it can be so hard for most of us, and definitely for me, is that because usually when we eat more than our body needs to be healthy, it's for an emotional reason. And it could be for the emotional reason of negative emotion or positive emotion. So I'm sure you're familiar with the idea of, and the concept of, and maybe the experience of, I certainly am, numbing negative emotion with food. So we're often taught to use food to numb difficult feelings. I'm angry, I'm sad, I'm depressed, I'm bored. Something traumatic has happened in my life. And so I'm going to comfort myself, understandably, with excess food more than my body needs to kind of numb and soothe those emotions. Understandable. This is deep, deep work that needs to be done. And we often need therapy or coaching or some kind of support in processing those feelings in healthy ways versus numbing them with food. So think about that. Remember, I'm talking about this at the high level, just to give you those three overall tips about what I think it really comes down to. And then there's so much more work to be done. So think about if it's possibly true for you that excess eating, eating of food more than your body needs, again, no judgment, so much self-compassion, please, could be because you are using that food to numb difficult feelings that it's hard to feel. And how can you process those feelings? And there are so many tools. Oh my goodness. Watch my webinar. I talk about the 100 urges tool, which is all about understanding that it's sitting with the urges, not indulging it by eating the extra cookie or whatever it is, but also not trying to white knuckle it with willpower, really sitting with that really painful, sometimes uncomfortable, incredibly difficult urge to eat more than we really need to eat. But it's not just using food to numb emotion that can cause us to have excess weight. It can also be using food for pleasure. So this is all around us in commercials and parties and events and things we see everybody doing, and we're encouraged to do is have more, have that second piece of cake, have all the pizza you want, eat the big dripping burger, whatever it is for you. There's so much out there that entices us to eat more than we know our body really needs to stay healthy. So there are so many messages out there and advertising and so much modeling that we see to eat excess food, extra food to experience that excess pleasure. And it can actually get to the point of almost an addiction, right? Because it's such a dopamine hit. It's not just the pleasureful emotions, but we're actually triggering all kinds of physiological reactions, especially if it's sugar and processed flours. We're going to have so much stronger cravings to have more and more and more because it's so pleasurable. And I get it. Of course, I want that extra cookie too, or whatever it might be. And so it's really, again, working with finding other ways to experience pleasure in our lives. What gives you pleasure? It's not about denying ourselves pleasure. We can enjoy the pleasure of eating food. Of course, it's pleasurable when we eat food. Even healthy food can be very pleasurable if we've learned how to make it well in ways that taste good to us, whatever that means for you. It's just that eating food is really meant to be a fairly small amount of our time in our day, sadly, I know, but we can fully enjoy it and have that pleasure. One of the best ways I learned this is being on a 6-day silent meditation retreat where you have all your food made for you. And I learned that really I could exist on 3 light, healthy meals a day, and it took about eating slowly and mindfully, it still only took about 20 to 30 minutes to eat each meal. So it's a pretty short amount of time we can enjoy it, we can have that pleasure, and then we need to find ways to enjoy our lives and seek lots of pleasure and joy and things that are healthy and good for us in other ways instead of eating. So maybe it's going out dancing or doing yoga or going to the gym or spending more time with friends and family who you love, reading a great book, watching a documentary that's exciting and interesting, hiking, taking a bath, meditating, focusing on a candle. I mean, the options are endless. Some may be costly, many are free. Getting out in nature, petting your beloved pet. It's moving into doing more of those things that give us true pleasure and joy without filling our bodies to experience pleasure with more food than they actually need for fuel. And this takes time. I do recognize this. And again, I think coaching and therapy are really helpful and were necessary for me. Now, the brain will resist this because whatever your eating patterns are, they have become a neural pathway in your brain. So if you try to redirect and eat less for pleasure or eat less to numb difficult emotions, your brain is going to resist and fight that. And it's going to try to send you signals that you're going to die because we have neural wiring because that keeps us alive. Our brain believes we need to do these things to stay alive. So it needs to be gradual change, and we need to slowly rewire that brain to let it know that we don't actually need that excess food, and we're going to be slowly cutting that out over time as a habit, but know that that resistance will come. All right, that's number one. Number two and number three, I'll try to go through a little more briefly because I'm getting into way more detail here because I'm so passionate about doing coaching on this and training on this. But again, there's so much more out there. I can share so many resources with you if you come to me and you want to know more. So the first tip is eat the right amount of food that your body needs to be healthy. And I hope I've given you a couple things to think about in terms of how to figure that out. And that's food journaling, planning what you'll eat, experimenting with it, seeing how much food, if you eat this way for a week, what is that, or a month, what does that look like on the scale? If you eat a different way for a month in the amount, what does that look like on the scale? And kind of keep playing with it and experimenting with it. Two is the right food for your body. My feeling on that is it's really your choice. There are so many different diets, a plant-based diet, a keto diet, a Mediterranean diet. You are smart. You have been eating your whole life. You know what works for your body. I'm not even going to tell you anything about that. For me, it's mostly plant-based. It's a lot of fruits and vegetables and nuts and seeds for me. But I also have a very sensitive stomach. So I really can't do a lot of sugar and flour and processed foods without paying a heavy price in terms of my comfort level and how I feel in my stomach. So that really works for me. And I do work hard to get in lots of protein through natural sources of protein. But whatever works for you, once you've figured out the right amount, and now you can move into, okay, these are the foods that seem to work best for my body. They keep me strong, they keep me energized, they keep me feeling good mentally, emotionally. I know that when I'm not getting enough protein, I don't feel as much energy. I don't have the motivation to work out as much, although we don't need to be motivated to work out. We've got to work out anyway. That's a whole other topic. That's the next one. But you know what food is best for your body. So figure it out and really stick to that. Sticking to these things is the hardest part. And I know that most of us will go off our plan in terms of how much to eat and what to eat that's healthiest for our body. Occasionally, we'll go off that plan. I do it myself. And usually I feel pretty crappy when I go off the plan. And that's a good reminder. Oh, that's really not meant to be in my food plan of my diet and what I eat and what's best for me. This is also with regard to alcohol. Lots of people, when they really want to get to a healthy weight, choose to completely eliminate alcohol. And that's great. I'm all for that. I wouldn't really see any reason to recommend not to do that if that works for you. And some of us, on the other hand, choose to plan our drinking and limit our drinking. And again, just like choosing the right amount of food for your body, choosing the right amount and timing of alcohol if you are going to include alcohol in your diet, how that works for you. And so for me, it's pretty limited. It's social drinking, and I have all kinds of conditions under which I drink alcohol that are totally different from the way they used to be in my life and that work for me right now. And there's a lot to that work as well. And it is also very emotional and habit based and has to do with our brain wiring. So that work is really important and meaningful growth if it's work that you want to do as well. So, again, the brain will resist your attempts to try to eliminate the foods that you know are not really healthy for you and stick to, for the most part, a plan of the foods that are most healthy for you, the amount and the type of food. But if we sit with those urges and we go through them, usually, in my experience, that strong urge, that desire for whatever it is that is not part of our plan, if I sit with it, if I let it be there and just feel all that discomfort, it usually lasts 10 minutes. That's why a lot of programs I know for habit change say just see if you can wait 10 minutes or just see if you can wait half an hour. Or I know 12-step programs, it's just get your sponsor on the phone if you can to talk you through that most intense moment where you feel like you cannot resist whatever it is. Know that those of us who support people through this work are aware that that's incredibly difficult. And sometimes we can't do it. Sometimes we eat the thing, we drink the thing, we do the thing. That's okay. You start again the next day or 5 minutes later. That is okay. That is not a reason to give up. Number three, and I'll make this one short because you know this one as well. And it's just a reminder, exercise in the way that is right and healthy for your body and your mind and your emotions. Here's the biggest problem with exercise, I think, is a lot of us tend to choose exercise that we don't actually enjoy because we think that's what we're supposed to do. So the exercise should be what helps your body stay fit and healthy and strong and is good for your bones and your muscles and your mental health. There are so many studies now showing that a regular exercise routine that you enjoy can be one of the best, the most powerful ways to prevent and also to deal with depression and emotional challenges. I have found this very much in my life personally. So for you, is it pickleball? Is it walking? Is it hiking? Is it yoga? Is it tennis? Is it there? You know, there are countless forms of exercise, both free and very expensive and everywhere in between. And you got to figure out what works for you. I've tried pickleball a few times because it's so popular right now. And I have some lovely friends who play and I've played with them. And I'm just not developing the love for it that I find other people have. I might keep trying. But for me, I love hiking. I love yoga. And I do have a Peloton in my garage. I love the teachers who have inspirational messages while I'm writing and encourage me to keep going and to push myself. And so for me, those are some of the things that work, but you've got to figure it out for you. So that's what I'm going to say right now. I can't help feeling like there's so much to all of this, and there are so many things that I didn't say that I could say. If you want more, please go to my webinar, Curb Your Cravings. The link will be here. Please also ask me for additional resources and maybe even consider doing coaching with me. Or I can give you some podcast episodes and some other resources that'll be free that you can listen to get more detail on the program that I went through that really helped make this shift for me for life. So, just to review, the three ways to be at a healthy weight for life are: one, to really commit to eating the right amount of food for your body. And two, eating the right foods for your body. And three, doing the right exercise for your body and your mind. I gave a few suggestions. I have lots more. I hope that you can feel my compassion for you and how difficult, how incredibly difficult this is. I grew up a chubby kid, believe me, and the kids made fun of me at school, and I struggle with my weight. I've done everything from starving myself. I've certainly had my share of times of binging because of negative emotion that I couldn't process, and overeating and over drinking out of desire for pleasure, excess pleasure, and not finding that pleasure in other areas of my life. I have done this work. I understand how difficult it is. So please, I hope there was not any indication of judgment or, oh, this is so easy, you should be able to do this. I know it's challenging, but I hope these tips help. And if I can be of any further help, it would be my honor. Thanks for listening or watching, and I hope you come back next time. And if you can take 1 minute to rate and review this podcast, I would be so, so very grateful. I really just want to help people and get the word out more about this podcast, and any help that you could provide in that would be so appreciated. Thank you. Bye.